Okay, we're ready. Okay, I'm going to open the Hood River City Council meeting of June 13th. It is 6 o'clock. And call it to order and remind people to turn your cell phone off or on silent, please. And I'm going to do the land acknowledgement and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. As we meet tonight, let us all remember that today we are stewards of land that has been home to Indigenous peoples for thousands of years before the recent arrival of the European heritage dominant culture. We honor this land's ancestors as we go about our business today. We'll do the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have an urban renewal agency meeting this evening, so I'm going to recess our Hood River City Council meeting and open the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency meeting of June 13th. Do we have any agenda additions or corrections this evening?
We do not.
All right. And was there anyone signed up for business from the audience? No, there isn't. Okay. All right. We have a consent agenda, which is the approval of meeting minutes from May 9th.
I will move we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion from Megan and a second from Tim to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Chair votes aye. All right. We have one regular business item, which is the adoption of the 2022-23 budget. And I have a script for that. This is the time scheduled for a public hearing regarding the approved budget for the FY 2022-23 of the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency. We'll now take public testimony. Do we have anyone who has registered to speak or has provided written testimony? All right. Since there is no one that is going to speak, I guess we can go ahead and discuss or close the public hearing. Close the public hearing.
Mhm.
No one has. The only thing is we did get something that was sent to us regarding the parking structure, but I don't know that that was specific to Urban Renewal Agency budget. It didn't say that it was. It came in from Megan Ramey this afternoon.
Okay, yeah, this is the first I'm seeing of it, but I don't see it directly related to the saying that this is in regards to the budget or Minta's testimony. I think this is business from the audience.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close the public testimony then. Do you have anything, Will, that you want to
No,
give us on this?
just this approved budget before you tonight for adoption is as proposed and as discussed with the budget committee. And so it carries forward all the projects listed in the document. I can go into any detail on any of those that we would like to, but I know that we've already discussed this during budget committee. So the only thing left is to, after this, now that we've held the public hearing, is to adopt the resolution 2022-URA-01, which will create appropriations for fiscal year 22-23.
Okay,
Can I clarify, is it resolution 2020 or 2022?
I do see that it's 2022. I will make that change on the resolution before it's signed.
All right, does anyone have any questions? I think a number of us were at the budget committee meetings. So does anyone have any questions? I don't see any questions. There's a suggested motion on page 8.
I move to adopt a resolution 2022-URA-01, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022-23.
I have a motion by Megan and a second by Gladys to adopt resolution 2022 URA-01, which is adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022-23. Additional discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chapman, aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Chair votes aye. All right. That is our only agenda item this evening. So we will go ahead and adjourn the urban renewal meeting. Thank you for joining, Christy. Appreciate you getting on.
No problem. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
All right. We will reopen the Hood River City Council meeting. Do we have any business from the audience today, Jen? No. Okay. So we have a couple presentations this evening, and our first presentation is by Sheriff Lane McGill regarding a resolution center. We had some information on our in our packet about it, but we're anxious to hear what it's all about. If you want to just tap that little circle there.
She's not gonna throw things at me, is she?
No, I don't think so.
This guy, you need to watch him. He's like totally out of control. See, Jessica agrees with me. Sorry. Well, thanks for having me. You have talking points in front of you. And it sounds like we've got about 15 or 20 minutes to chat. So I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of what this document is. So in 2019, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the local public safety coordinating council that every county is required to have in Oregon. And so our local public safety coordinating council began to work through the process of talking about, individuals that have mental health, behavioral health, and things like that. And that was about 8 years now. Well, actually about 9 years ago now. And there was a sequential intercept mapping thing that was done back at that time. The National Institute of Corrections actually came out from New York and Washington, D.C., and they did a sim. It was a 3-day sim. And what that did is that was to map out the interaction of individuals that experience mental health, behavioral health, interactions with criminal justice through either law enforcement, the jail system, behavioral health, different things like that. That actually determined that there were 3 main populations of individuals that were experiencing. We have individuals that are acute mental health crisis. So acute would be individuals that fall into a category and need a police officer hold, a director's hold, and they need to be put into a class 1 facility for security purposes. Not jail, but just a place. So it'd be like Unity or someplace like that. It's a hospital is what it is. So it gives them the ability to contain those individuals and provide them very, very direct and focused treatment. Subacute are the individuals that make up a lot more than the acute, but those fall into the category where you may have a police officer hold, but they're not so acute that we can't stabilize them through crisis respite or something like that. So we have acute, subacute, and then the third category that we had in there is the drug and alcohol, what we call dual diagnosis or coexisting. So I'm sure you've heard of the coexisting situation before, because you have individuals in our communities that have drug or alcohol addictions, but that causes mental health or behavioral health issues, or vice versa. We have those individuals that are diagnosed with mental health or behavioral health, and then what you commonly hear the slang term self-medicate through drugs or alcohol, and then that causes what we call co-occurring behaviors. So in about January of 2019, I was approached along with the other members of the LIPSIC by Gobi to actually do another sequential intercept mapping. And I said, well, there's no reason to do that. We've spent our money. We can do that. We already know what our needs are. But I acquiesced, and in March of 2019, we had another sequential intercept mapping project done. It was a 1-day event. It about 75 people there that we coordinated with. And lo and behold, out of that one-day event, these three things came out. With the addition of individuals with dementia or memory loss, we're finding that that's an expanding condition and it ties into mental health and behavioral health. There's some crossover there, but it's still one of those things that we're learning as the baby boomer generation expands and grows over time. Unfortunately, we'll start dealing with the memory loss and dementia much more. And that's one of the things that we're kind of anticipating in this project as we move forward long term. But it's just one of those things that's noted in our area. One thing that's really important about this conversation is this isn't just a Wasco County issue. This isn't a Hood River County issue. It's not a Sherman County issue. It's not a Clicktack County issue. It's a national issue. This affects all of us. But the key component to this is when we got it started in 2019 is like, okay, this is just Wasco County. Out of that process, the clinical advisory panel approves a certain amount of dollars for a company through Gobi to actually provide the sequential intercept mapping diagnosis, for lack of a better term, to tell us exactly where our needs were at. There were 17 agencies that were to be contacted between that March meeting and October 4th of 2019. One agency was contacted under the contract. Needless to say, they were terminated. So at that LIPSEP meeting, of course, I've been battling, I guess, for the lack of a better term, mental health and behavioral health since I started in command of, 2011, 2012 of the Wasco County Sheriff's Office. How we treat our individuals with mental health and behavioral health is, quite frankly, appalling. We just put them in jail, throw the key away, give them no services or anything like that. And then it's just a cycle that is never ending. We talk about it, we gripe about it, all those types of things, but we never offer solutions. So at that 2019 meeting, I said, well, if you'll have me collaborate with a number of people, let's put this group together. So that original group started in October 2019, 13 on the group. Within 2 weeks, we had the data that we needed. That data showed between Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties that in those, just the Hood River and Wasco counties, almost 5,000 individuals that have been diagnosed that we knew about through the medical system with clear, serious, and persistent mental illness or behavioral health diagnoses. That's 10% of your county. It's 10% of my county, and there was about a 7% at the time of Sherman County when we did this study. So out of that working group, basically became the Columbia Gorge Resolution Center. And over time, as things have progressed, we've determined those needs in the mental health and behavioral health world and how those affect us, not only from a criminal justice standpoint, but also how they affect us from livability in our communities. Because we do see these people that are co-occurring, dual diagnosis, or subacute or acute, and it's a constant rotating door. We're really good at crisis. So if somebody calls it's in crisis, it's having a mental health crisis, behavioral health crisis, or anything like that, we're on it. We're good at it. We have mobile crisis teams through Mid-Columbia Center for Living. All of our deputies, officers, and troopers are trained in medical first aid for mental health, is what we call it. So we're really good at that. We can get people safe. We can, there's a lot of things that we can do. The problem is we don't have a continuum of care. We never have had a continuum of care. Well, we did have a continuum of care up until about 15 years ago when they shut Eastern Oregon Psychiatric Center down in Pendleton and stuff like that. With all due respect, it was a good decision by the state to do that because it was a very aging facility. The treatment programs that they had there were inadequate, quite frankly, for the methamphetamine epidemic and all that stuff that we faced 15, 18 years ago, right? The only problem with the state was, and I've told everybody this, and I'm not the least bit ashamed, they didn't have a plan in place to continue that mental health, behavioral health care for our citizens. It's just plain and simple as that. And here we are today. So with that being said, this group started with 13 people and grew over the period of about a year and a half ultimately with 30 individuals on it, almost 30 people on it. The representation that's been on this working group is everybody from law enforcement to physicians. We have Mid-Columbia Medical Center on it. We have Center for Living on it, One Community Health's on it, law enforcement on it, the jails are on it, juveniles on it, because juveniles are very, very important key to this whole thing. We have people like Eric that have graciously donated their time to this organization and what we're doing. So the ultimate goal is to actually have a facility built in the Dalles. Actually, it'll be 2 facilities built in the Dalles. When we originally come up with the plan, there's 3 classes of secured facilities in Oregon. There's class 1, which is a behavioral lockdown unit, much like Unity, like I talked about. Class 2 is what we call a secure rural treatment facility, where law enforcement or people can go and drop those individuals off to get that intensive supervision, but they don't rise to the level of the acuteness, but they're in a secure location. Then we have what we call a RTF, a residential treatment facility, crisis respite. And that'll have a certain amount of beds as well in it. And people will go there, but they'll be there. That will be their home until we can get them stabilized. So they'll be able to come and go through the system and get care, get jobs, different things like that. And then the respite side of it is a 10-bed facility that'll have recliners. So, and that's your class 3. And what happens in a class 3 is basically you can't stay more than 24 hours. You have to only stay 23 hours, because once you cross that 24-hour threshold, you become a medical facility. But it gives the people opportunity, any one of us, anybody of our citizens, our kids, whatever, if they're experiencing drug and alcohol addiction, mental health, behavioral health, those types of things, dual diagnosis, co-occurring, stuff like that, they have the ability to walk in and get care right there. No questions asked. Doesn't matter what color skin you are, doesn't matter your nationality, doesn't matter your gender, none of that doesn't count. You just walk in and you get services. That's what it'll do. So with that being said, one of the things that we've really tried to work on really hard is find a location. And I'm sure that many of you, if you haven't heard about it, you're probably going to hear about it, is the MCMC Kramer Field project in the Dalles. We have a 63-year-old hospital that's basically fallen down because it's 63 years old. I think it's the oldest hospital in the nation, I think right now, or one of the oldest. It's terrible. Yeah, it's crazy. I think the average hospital in America is like 11 years old. So you can kind of do the math on that and understand that, we have a, the infrastructure for our medical system is failing, of course. So Wasco County, in conjunction with Mid-Columbia Medical Center, has entered into an agreement to have discussions about actually taking the Kramer Field project and moving that and building the MCMC facility and everything right there on the Kramer Field. And there's a big transitional thing, and I won't get into the whole administrative boring details of property transactions and all that stuff, because 1, quite frankly, that's not my wheelhouse, and 2, I wouldn't even know what I was talking about if it was. So anyways, that's all to say that we're working very, very closely with Mid-Columbia Medical Center. This facility or facilities are going to go on that property. We've already committed to that. It'll be about 3 acres for our portion of it, and we'll have the 2 facilities that'll be there. The great part about this partnership between us and Mid-Columbia Medical Center is originally, when we built this, it was about a $21 million project. And through the course of all the processes through Kramer Field and fundings and different things like that and ideas coming forward, Dennis Knox and MCMC and whoever the partner is that they will pick by the end of this month will come in, and they're going to build us a 16-bed behavioral health unit, just like Unity in Portland. We'll be able to handle everybody in the gorge with that 16-bed unit. That in and of itself reduced our cost by a minimum of $7 million, almost 10. So with that being said, myself and several others worked with Representative Williams from Hood River County, Representative Smith from Wasco County, in the Oregon legislature in the last long session. In that long session, they allocated $4.5 million of Section 86 lottery dollars to us, just specifically to the Columbia Gorge Resolution Center. In that time frame, in the last 6 months, we partnered with an organization called Columbia Care Services that you saw in your notes there. Columbia Care Services is well anchored in the state of Oregon, and they're already anchored in the Dalles. They've been there for over 20 years. They run a house that's called Mill Creek, or Creekside, I'm sorry. It actually has 6 beds that are just regular long-term beds, and then they have 3 crisis respite beds. But this process here will take that and we'll eliminate the crisis respite out of that facility. So we'll effectively go from 0 really transitional housing beds to 9 transitional housing beds. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's huge based on what our need is and what the data shows and everything like that. So how that will work is Columbia Care has come in. We have a project manager. Rod Estes is a project manager, and they've taken it and they're running with it. They're now in process of going after about another 10.5 million to build it. All we have to do is secure 8.5 million of that. That's what they're going to do. If they secure the 8.5 million plus a 4.5, we're at 13. And I have a hunch that there's probably another 2 million that's going to come from another pot of money. I just kind of stuck my toe in the water. No, that's not true. I just jumped in and made a lot of waves. I said, I'd take $2 or $4 million. And they're like, nah, we might be able to help you out. So we'll see. I think we're there. We're almost, we're just that. We're on the cusp of, we're successful now, but anyways. So with that all being said, I was telling Eric this, he's probably heard me talk about it a lot. This isn't about Wasco County. It's not about the sheriff. It's not about Eric. It's not about any of us. It's about all of us. We're all in the same boat together. And you know what, we got to figure out a way to stop the leaks and, get this thing going back across the water. So, and we're doing that. I don't think we're sinking anymore in my mind. We've garnered the attention of the director of the Oregon Health Authority's Behavioral Health Unit, Mr. Allen. Matter of fact, Mr. Allen and I and a couple others at the state had a conversation about 4 or 5 months ago. And he said, we're the only regionalized concept in the state right now. And when they looked at our designs and different things like that, he said, if they could duplicate that 5 to 7 times around the state in the next 5 to 7 years, that's what they'd like to do. So we're on the map. Super exciting. So that's really kind of a 20,000 foot overview. I appreciate the invitation, Eric. It means a lot to be able to come and talk and tell you what we're doing. I could probably go into all kinds of details and all the exciting things that we do and stuff like that, but I'm more than happy to entertain any kind of questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions. We're here to listen to what our citizens are really after, and know what their needs are. So.
Thank you for coming. Thanks,
Yeah.
Eric. I'm glad.
Yeah, big shout out to Eric.
Information about
Yeah,
what's going on.
yeah,
That was fantastic.
yeah. Eric's been very inspirational and helped us out a lot with drafting up some of our, we're not a nonprofit, we're not like a 501c3. It's just an advisory council is what it is. But that advisory council, you saw there are people that are, very well invested in the region, not just one area, but all of us. And we have 2 individuals now. We just picked up a second individual with lived experience. So that's going to be super exciting. So,
Does
yeah.
anyone have any questions or? Megan?
Go ahead.
Well, one, thank you for coming and
Sure.
thank you for working on this. This sounds like an absolutely incredible service for, the residents in our county and 2 other ones. I guess I'm wondering, obviously this is the money to build the facilities, but as you've been building this out, how do you envision the long-term funding for staffing?
Yep.
and
Excellent.
resources?
Excellent question. Yeah. So one of the really unique things about this whole process is by partnering with Columbia Care, when they walk in to look at these types of organizations, and just so you know, they're just statewide. They have over 450 employees right now. So they're very well solid in this business. This is what they do. They won't look at anything unless it will touch a 30-year matrix for sustainability. Now, there's challenges with that. We all know that. However, in this particular case, we're somewhat unique because when we first started this in 2019, we brought the CCO, Pacific Source, on board. Let's just be honest. They're the big guns at the table. When they walk through the door packing $290 million in their backpacks and ready to distribute it, those are the people that you want at the table. So having Columbia Care on board is key to this whole thing, and we have representation from them on the board. The other thing about this project is the sustainability models are there because of the ongoing contribution of state and federal dollars to mental health, and not just mental health and behavioral health has been very, very narrow in its focus for funding, and now it's expanded, as far as what programs need to be funded and different things like that. Quite frankly, the financial sustainability is we're pretty solid. There's a lot of bumps that you have to look at, but when you start looking at things 20, 25, 30 years out, these are people that you want at the table. I think the biggest challenge that we will have or are going to have, and it's not something that we just have here regionally, it's a national problem, is just the employee base to do it. It's very interesting because some of the, I mean, you look at just clinicians. I mean, it's a very, very small pool. It's highly, highly competitive. I mean, if you look at a clinician in Oregon versus a clinician in Washington and just the compensation package, it's almost 60% higher in the state of Washington or 48% higher or something like that. It's just crazy. So lots and lots of money over there, you know, that they pay into it. So, and if you have a small pool, that's where that pool is going to go. But I think those employment challenges are going to be probably bigger than our financial sustainability, in my opinion, right now. But you know, we live in the gorge, and you know, there's a lot of different things that we can do to get people to come to work for us, I guess. So, or Columbia Care Service, they won't be working for me. So. But yeah, no, great question. Yeah, good question too.
Other questions?
Yeah, thank you for being here. How can we continue supporting you, the city of Hood River? How can we continue supporting this?
So,
program?
yeah, that's a good question as well. I think in my mind is just one, asking good questions and being involved in the process. You've got really good representation over here with Sheriff English. So, and just so you know, and kind of give a little more detail about the organization. Each one of these members here represents another larger group. So you'll see me in the law enforcement, I'll use that. So I represent the City of Dallas, Hood River Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, State Police. And I collaborate with those organizations and bring those ideas and different things to the table. It's much same as healthcare and things like that. I think from my standpoint is anytime we come to one, give you the information, stay on top of it and ask good questions and be involved in it. You know, I think at some point in time, we may have to come and ask for letters of support and things like that, you know, but getting the word out of how the benefits of this for our individuals, because here's the reality that we face every day is these people interact in the criminal justice system and we want to get away from that, you know? And so if you can help us get to the point of where we steer people to, I'll give you a really good example. I like to tell people this is there's 7 intercepts in the sequential intercept map. One is when I get the phone call, when the dispatchers get the phone call, that's intercept 1. Our ultimate goal in all of our business is to be at intercept 0. If we can identify somebody or we even hear somebody that's struggling with mental health, behavioral health, any dual diagnosis, we're going to reach out to them and say, here's the deal. You're showing these signs. We've got these services to help you. Let us be a part of your success. That's really our ultimate goal. And having you as counsel, citizens, stuff like that, expressing that to those individuals, that's gold to us. Yep, sure. But I may come back and ask for a letter of support. There you go. Good. Yeah, exactly. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. And like
Really
I said,
appreciate it.
yeah, if you have any
Taking the
questions,
time.
feel free to ask Eric.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. No, thanks again, Eric. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yep, no worries. Yep, thank you.
It's easy to see your passion. Thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
for having it.
Well, yeah, it is there.
All right, we have another presentation, Rand Road update from Kevin and Will.
Thank you, Mayor McBride and councilors. I'd like to introduce Jessica Woodruff, the Development Director at Community Development Partner. She's here to give you a brief update on the 780 Rand Road Affordable Housing Project. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me here. So as Kevin said, I'll give an update that sort of goes over the memo that you were all provided. So just give a summary of that and then happy to answer any questions you might have. So the memo is really focused on an update since the last time I was with all of you in February. I think the real main action I wanted to highlight for you is that we did apply for the major portions of funding for the Rand Road site. We submitted our application to the state of Oregon in April, and we will hear the results of that competitive application in August. So what we did, again, I'll just summarize what was in the memo. In preparing for that funding application, we did make some slight modifications to the income mix. We did this in partnership with our development partner. Columbia Cascade Housing Corporation and city staff. We kept the unit number the same, so 129 units, but we did increase the number of 30% area median income units. So we went from 20 to 39 units at that level. And at the 60% AMI level, we decreased those from 109 to 90. So there's a little chart there that you can see the changes we made. The reasons we made these adjustments on the income that we were serving was we felt like it was a better mix of distribution of incomes at the property. We also were able to have a greater likelihood of winning the state funding because they were prioritizing the lower income units. And it also actually improved the financial feasibility of the project because the Housing Authority also increased the number of project-based vouchers that they would give to the project, which actually brings more resources to the deal. As I noted, we applied for LIFT, which was extremely competitive this year, the most competitive I have ever seen. So that is just a general challenge in the state of Oregon, given the need for affordable housing and the fact that the resources are limited and highly competitive. We've been also speaking with Energy Trust of Oregon about incentives we can bring to the project to meet the green goals that we have. And finally, CCHC submitted a request of $3 million to Senator Merkley's office. And we have been put on his shortlist for this project. And we understand we would know probably around the end of this calendar year if that funding is successful. Any questions on that, or should I go through the whole thing before I ask for questions?
Does anyone have any questions on information so far? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll keep going and leave the questions till the end. So, you know, one thing we've been talking a lot with city staff about is the fact that this is a particularly challenging environment for affordable housing and development in general. I've been doing affordable housing development in the state of Oregon for quite some time, and this is a very unique time. So we are very optimistic about this project. I would say before I go in, we think this is an exceptional project and it will get done. But we also think that there are, you know, challenges we want you all to be aware of things that we're working through as we go to make sure that we can move the project forward. So the first thing is just the really incredible cost escalation that's being seen across the state and really across the country right now. It's about 12% inflation in a calendar year. So, so that is definitely something, that rate of inflation is something new we're dealing with. The rising interest rates are going up very dramatically. Actually, when we wrote this memo not very long ago, we said that that the rates had just recently raised 50 basis points, and they've raised an additional 50 basis points in the last 3 days. So just a really volatile interest rate market. There is a limit. There's always been a limit on private activity bonds, which is what the state uses, which must be paired with low-income housing tax credits to make these deals work. So those have always been limited, but the issue in Oregon is there weren't enough groups using them. So in essence, they were unlimited. We always had leftover in Oregon year after year that were moved. They were called carry forward to the next year. So for developers and owners of affordable housing like myself, we really never had to compete for those resources. They were just always there. And now we are in a new, highly constrained environment where they are now going to be competitive and you cannot get them any other way. So I know that might be a little bit confusing, but we can talk a little bit more about that. So that kind of goes in line with why these resources, the LIFT resources we went for, were so highly competitive, is because it's basically like a package deal from the state. If you win the LIFT, you win the private activity bonds, you win the tax credits. So I think because you can kind of go through that competitive process and get everything you need to make a deal work, a lot more people took that opportunity to kind of go through that door and get all their funding. So beyond the funding, the other major activities we've been working on since we talked last is the city has successfully rezoned the site. So the site is now completely zoned R3 and ready for the development we've all been talking about. We have completed the wetland delineation report, which is in alignment with the information the city had before we had this formal report done. So that's all good news. And we're just starting to go through what can be a lengthy process, but we expect it to go well. We know that we have more work together to talk about trail alignments and make sure we get that all the way we collectively want that. And we have started our public outreach. So we have a phased public outreach. So right now we're in phase 1, which is kind of behind the scenes. Phase 2, which will start any day now, starts to have one-on-one interviews with community stakeholders. Phase 3, which we anticipate will start in late September if we're funded, is when we start to have public meetings. And that was partially in our dialogue with city staff, where we collectively decided, because we won't know the true timing of this construction until we know about the state funding, that we thought it made the most sense to wait to hear if we have the state funding before we start having public meetings. And then the last phase will start in late September and go quite a while, all the way till April. And we'll end up with a full report about the entire process that can be used for the public. You'll all have a copy, but it'll also inform the design and the future service model. I think that's my summary. So I'm happy to take any questions about anything I said. Or
Thanks,
anything I didn't say.
Does anyone have additional questions? Megan?
Thanks, Jessica. I think 2 questions. One, it looked like maybe there was some changes in the number of different bedroom units. Is that correct? And if so, can you talk about it a bit?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, sorry, really quick. I don't think we did make a few slight modifications. So yeah, mostly we just changed the incomes served, but it does appear that we maybe made a few slight modifications on the bedroom unit mix, which I think would have just been a combination of what the state funding application was asking us to do, and or just the site configuration as we got further through design. And I can follow up with more details on that if that's helpful.
I think that answer is great.
Okay.
So that's funny. And then kind of big picture, I'm hoping and assuming, I think we've already done some letters of support, but are there other places we can put our political support behind this project, or funding in general, or where could we be valuable to move this project forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, from my perspective, this is in a sort of a closed process at this point with the Oregon Housing and Community Services. I think it's, of course, always great for the city and individuals to share with OHCS the needs in your community. But I don't believe that there's sort of a direct way that you can talk to them about this project at this point. City staff did ask me about some federal policy and if there was action that the city or city staff want or city councilors want to take in regards to letting Wyden and Merkley know about some of the needs of the region. So I did pass some of those city contacts on. And why I say that is right now there is a lot of push at the federal level to advocate for affordable housing because they are currently talking about a federal change in private activity bonds that would in essence double the amount of the type of financing we're trying to use here in the state of Oregon. So that's again, national policy that's being talked about.
Thank you.
Tim?
Thanks, Mayor. And I realize these are kind of like unprecedented situation, but it seems like we have asked for a fixed amount of money for the project. Then the inflation is causing everything to cost more. So can you kind of describe the process about how you're going to resolve those two tensions? I'm not asking for a definitive answer. I was kind of interested.
I think the last part of your question, I didn't hear. Could you just repeat the last part again?
Can you kind of resolve the tensions between the fixed amount of money and the the reduced buying power associated with inflation? And how do you propose to work through that issue?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a few things going on. You're right, as it is sort of a rub where these funding cycles at the state do allow you to apply for a fixed amount in an environment and then they take months and months to review, right? Why costs are moving around. So it's a tough thing to reconcile right now. There are a few methods we always use in our efforts, just given the unknown in development. Some of that is how we build in contingencies and things of that nature to get prepared for just general inflation and change. Some of that is the strategies we use to not just be reliant solely on one source, right? So these are things like talking with of course, the city about, the efforts you could take, which you've obviously done a lot of that already. The housing authority is participating and up their participation as we saw kind of what was coming. We put in the federal request to Merkley's office, right? So we don't sort of just sit by and wait. We try to keep looking for what other supports could we get for the project and hope that you sort of line that all up. I would also say the state of Oregon has been really proactive on this issue, much more than other states, and they created a fund called the Market Cost Offset Fund. It's a fund they created that you can apply to within 30 to 60 days, I think, before you close on your construction financing. We just did this on another project 2 weeks ago where we, despite our best efforts, and you really have to sort of prove that out to the state, we ended up on a $70 million project having a $1.5 million gap. The state allowed us to prove that out. And in about 2 weeks, they gave us the commitment of the 1.5 million and they told us to close the deal. And so they're sort of plugging holes all over the state right now. And I think that they'll continue to fund that program until this inflation and interest rate environment settles down, because it's been so uniquely chaotic. I guess there's no way to fully plan for it. And so that's been a great support. So it's sort of a variety of things. But what I have also found in my experience is when you have these public-private partnerships, where you really have that sort of team approach where you're all together. Like I mentioned, a number of organizations, we figure it out, right? And part of that is just having a really good architect contractor team. They're at the table, they're helping us. So there's not, we sort of incrementally figure it out as we go, and it never gets kind of totally, out of hand. So I would say, again, just kind of despite all of these challenges, I have full faith this project gets built. It is a question of, for me right now, exactly when will it start construction and how much will it cost, but not if it will happen.
Thank you for that answer.
Ron?
Jessica, back to Megan's question, but are there other local organizations, local foundations that you are all planning to approach in addition to Senator Merkley and all the others that you've listed?
That's a good question. We haven't come up with an additional list. There obviously are a few that cover Hood River that we could seek funds out. There are, what we have found is there are a number of them that will sort of be first money in, but most of them are actually last money in. And so what we find at this point is, getting the state resources is really what we need next. And then once we have that, if we do have any gaps or shortfalls, or also if we just collectively decide there's something more we want at the project, we're usually pretty successful fundraising those amounts to supplement the project. I would say a lot of those types of funds are, $50,000 to at most $500,000. So, they don't really necessarily make or break the project, but they do help make sure it all comes together.
Anything else? I don't have anything either, Jessica. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the update. It's really nice to be informed along the way when things, not change a whole lot, but they shift for different reasons. And so it's really good to have these updates. Thanks, Kevin, for that.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have another public hearing. This is the time scheduled for a public hearing regarding the approved budget for FY 2022-23 and the use of state shared revenue for the city of Hood River. The approved budget uses state shared revenue as a general fund revenue source supporting police, fire EMS, parks, and planning programs. We'll now take public testimony. Has anyone registered to speak or provide written testimony? Okay. So I won't read the rules because we have no one that wants to testify. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public part of this meeting, public testimony portion. And we'll go to the actual item. And Will, did you want to give us an overview on that?
Yes, Your Honor. So Mayor and members of the council, the budget committee deliberated and approved the proposed budget with the addition of some emergency tree trimming expenditure approved at the budget committee level. Some additional sort of main projects in addition to current service levels funded in the 22-23 budget is a catch-up transfer for fire EMS liabilities, the addition of a police officer, $150,000 for formation of a West Side Urban Renewal District, which will ultimately be refunded from the resulting district. Safety improvements for Collins Field, a zoning code audit, safe routes to school project placeholder, money to implement the affordable housing strategy, a telephone system replacement, which is very, very much needed, and some additional fitness equipment for fire EMS. That is what was in the approved budget. Some additional needs have come up since the approved budget to now what we're bringing you in the adopted budget. And as so the resolution that you have in front of you includes $18,000 for wildland firefighting protective equipment. That was actually expenditure that was in the current year budget, but will not be received until next fiscal year. So this allows the budget to move over. Will likely have an impact on beginning fund balance, but given the small dollar amounts, not really necessary to do much more than just move the appropriation over. Some of the larger dollar amounts are in the utility funds. $200,000 to repair the access road to our water source. The late spring snows and additional rainfall have started to wash away the access road to the water source, which needs to be fixed ASAP. So it's $200,000 for that fix. $400,000 for a repair to the clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant. That's one of the first chambers that effluent flows into, and that chamber is what was capped in 2018 when we did the big odor control improvements. Unintended consequence of capping that clarifier is all that noxious fumes are retained inside of there, and it has started to eat away the concrete walls. And so there's we need to, on an emergent basis, spend $400,000 to repair that and seal it so that it won't get worn down again. $150,000 for digester cleaning. That's will be later in your packet, awarding the contract for that. We bid it multiple times, multiple rounds, could not get a lower price. It's really not an optional project for the wastewater treatment plant. So this approves additional funds to execute that contract. And then $70,000 for solid storage bay engineering. And this is just the engineering component to make it shovel ready. There's been a lot of, let's say, uncertainty about how much that project is going to cost. We thought we should stop, and it keeps getting put off because sort of the idea of how much it could cost keeps going up. So we said we need to just do the engineering, get it shovel ready. If we hold on to it for a while, so be it, but we should move forward. It's actually was project number 1 on our facilities plan that we, other things have jumped in front of it, but we wanted to at least get the engineering done to make it shovel ready. So all those items, we've analyzed the cash impact on the utility funds. That will not require any additional borrowing or rate increases to balance this fiscal year's budget. It will likely push out some other projects, or put additional pressure on rates, one or the other. But these projects are emergent, and so really do need to be prioritized above other projects that come later.
Thanks, Will. Just as we're talking about these, emergency projects, and I don't know if anyone has looked at the whiteboard in Abigail's office recently, but there is a huge list of wastewater treatment plant projects that need to be done. Some of these are emergency, and some of them aren't quite as emergency, but they will need to be done. And, water and sewer is our gig. That's what we have to do before everything else for the city stops. So unfortunately, they needed to be added. But if you want to see the big, huge list in there of things, we have to do it. Megan?
Very clear. Yeah, certainly I understand these additions. They definitely need to be done. Clearly need to be done this year. I guess I'm wondering, when or how do we have that conversation of, increasing utility rates beyond the planned increase versus delaying projects versus some other alternative? Because that does feel like a critical conversation, especially given cost of living issues these days. So I'd like council to talk about it at some point, obviously not tonight.
Yeah, the default will be, we have our rate plan. So the engineering team will be adjusting project schedules to fit within that fixed pie. And it will need to be proven up to the council, if we ask for rate increases that are higher than what have already been acknowledged and approved. So yeah, that will be a specific additional different item.
See how we're writing it down on the list.
Got
Anything else?
So with respect to the road, your roads usually fail for a reason. Beyond the repairs that are thought to be given to understand why the road failed, or if there's something that needs to be mitigated there. Because just, redoing it, it could just fail in a couple of years.
Yeah, I know a complicating factor is that the pipe itself is underneath the road. So, and that can't be moved.
Right.
But
it's more the
means and methods.
Yeah. Wash away. Is there a culvert that needs to be there or some other type of water diversion?
Yeah.
So I would request that thought is
we'll ask the city engineer to follow up with you.
Oh, there's Wayne.
Yeah, this request includes an estimate to have a geotechnical engineer investigate the site and draw up plans. It's likely going to take some embankment reinforcement or retaining walls. It's a pretty steep embankment along the edge of the road, and I don't know how much water diversion can be accomplished, how much more, but I think the slope just needs to be stabilized with maybe gabions or a retaining wall.
Thanks, Wade.
Eric?
This might be a question for Wade as well, but I noticed just one item, it's Collins Field safety improvements. I spent a fair amount of time there and it's a pretty big number. I was just curious, what are those items? 'Cause I can't figure out what the safety issue is there.
Yeah, the fence, and I understand some of the structures have been or will be basically condemned, and people won't be able to use
Snatch
them.
the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Vending booth is, I think, so it's gonna actually fix that.
Let me follow up with you on that. I wasn't ready to answer that off the cuff, but it is written down. And I'll get that answer to you. But so I know the full meal deal, so to speak, was going to be well over $100,000. But consistent with the Parks Master Plan or the Parks Capital Plan resolution that the City Council passed a few months ago, we whittled it down to only things that were safety related, leaving anything that's really an enhancement to be a community driven priority.
Honestly, I don't understand what the problem with this is. I mean, I fully support it. Let's put all the money in part, that particular, as far as I'm concerned, from a baseball fan. I didn't perceive what the problem is. Not that that matters, but that's just my personal observation. But I'll also say it'd be good to get these things fixed because Babe Ruth, which plays at that field, and I'm looking at the senior record because your husband's at the ball baseball, but there's a push to bring Babe back. Babe Ruth has not been around for years, but that would be next time.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I got a little bit flat-footed with Mark Janik. I think did the analysis of what was safety versus what was enhancement. So we can just need to pull that up in order to get it for you.
So I do have the CIP here. It's in my bag, so I'll bring it up. So it's baseball dugouts, I can't talk. Filling in the existing dugouts and creating a concrete slab that meets existing grades, new fencing, metal roof over the dugouts, turf infield, reduced in size, new regrading and irrigation.
Yeah, the dugouts are pretty steep steps, that's true.
For some reason, my memory might not be serving me, but there was something to do with people running into the fence.
But we don't have the cover over the top of
Covers
the
over
fence.
the top, and there needs to be covers over the top so that they don't hit that hard metal. I think that was part of it.
There's at least the yellow half of plastic that's there. Maybe it's not there everywhere.
Yeah.
Someone got hurt.
Okay.
More questions on that?
Easy question that we can answer. But it has to do with the kind of the sealing of the, related to the fume issue and the degradation of the concrete. So does the sealer just like take care of that forever, or is
Wade, I know Windsor was sort of on top of this one. Do you have anything to add though?
I don't know the lifespan of the sealer, but it'd be pretty typical to provide a sealant either cast in with new concrete or a liner or sealer of sorts on a manhole or or concrete structure that's associated with these kind of hydrogen sulfide fumes. I can't tell you what the longevity is of that application.
thank you.
No.
Yeah. I'm just curious, really, honestly.
Yeah.
Is it something that needs to be done over and over again, or is it just a one-time treatment?
Certainly, it's not a yearly treatment, whether it's a 10-year treatment. I don't know. There are different options, and there are products that can be cast in new concrete. There are external liners that can be adhered to it. In this case, I don't know if it can be taken down long enough for a liner, or if it would have to be more of a sealant that's applied, that maybe it has to be reapplied in X number of years. I really don't have the details on that.
Excellent.
I did read some of the specs on the stuff they were gonna use, and it seems like it was numerous years. I mean, it would eventually need to be replaced, but it seemed like it was over 10 years, like maybe 20 years even. It was a fairly long-lasting thing. And probably when we put the top on it, there was no sealer because it was an old tank.
Yeah, and maybe neither here nor there because the waterfront urban renewal district is tapped out, but this is directly related to odor control. There's a nexus. So if so we've discussed with the port that if, there's a major increase to the maximum indebtedness, we want to fit this in as well.
All right, any other questions, or we're ready for a motion if we don't have?
So I did note there's the dates on the resolution are wrong. Do I need to mention that in the motion, or we're good to go? Okay.
I just would like to point out that there are elements in the budget that impact my employer, and so I usually like to ask to can we separate out the vote on the budget, which I'll need to abstain, and then the vote for the station revenue, which I can't participate in.
I think I can do that. I move that, we're putting on consent, or we're just doing it?
Going to consent because we can't take action outside of a regular meeting.
Okay. I move that, so can I put them on consent and you can vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're usually separated, there's like two things.
Okay, so I move that as part of tonight's consent agenda, the city council adopt resolution 2022-08, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022/23. And imposing categorizing tax levies. Not the third bit, because I will do it separately. Is that correct? Yes, yes. Okay. First one.
I second.
Okay, so I have a motion that is part of tonight's consent agenda, the city council adopt resolution 2022-08, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022-23, imposing and categorizing tax levies. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any nays? And Jessica was an abstention.
Okay, and then I move that as part of tonight's consent agenda, the city council adopt resolution 2022-09, electing to receive state shared revenue.
Okay, Megan's made a motion and Tim has seconded that as part of tonight's consent agenda, the city council adopt resolution 2022-09, the election to receive state shared revenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Abstentions? Nays? None. All right. Work session. Open the work session. Do we have anything additions? Work session?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Okay. So we'll adjourn the work session. We'll open the regular council meeting. Any additions or corrections?
We have none,
Oh, the budget.
with the
Except for the
with the
budget.
exception of the things we just mentioned, correct?
So we have a resolution 2022-08 and 2022-09. All right, do I have a motion?
Well, so then we need to pull the budget out for Jessica to vote on the rest, or?
Yeah. 2022-08, that's what I need to pull, right?
Yes. So I can move to approve the consent agenda absent resolution 2022-08.
I will second that.
Okay, Jessica's made a motion to approve the consent agenda without resolution 2022-08. Megan has seconded that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays or abstentions? Okay, we need another motion for resolution 2022-08.
And then I move that we adopt city council, or I move that we adopt resolution 2022-08, adopting the budget for fiscal year 22-23, imposing and categorizing tax levies.
Megan's made a motion to approve, to pass 2022-08 on the consent agenda regarding state revenue, no. The budget, city budget. for 2022-03.
I'll say.
And Tim had seconded that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Me.
Jessica has abstained. Nays? And chair votes aye. All right, regular business items. Dustin. Crystal Greens regarding tree installation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that really kind of falls between council work plan projects and really administration of some of the development processes, and is focused on looking at the installation of urban street trees. This is a part of your urban infrastructure and focuses on city-owned trees that currently now are planted by developers, home builders. Certain projects will trigger these in frontage improvements. And oftentimes in the residential world, left to be maintained by new residents or occupants of new homes when planted. As one of your development team executors, I can say this is a highly challenging field. It's one of the pieces of infrastructure that are planted one by one that you own that need to be kept alive, and it's really been a challenge for new residents, for the building community who tries to plant these to finish off projects, and for staff to really administer the need for them to be installed correctly in order to guarantee success. The need for their maintenance has been an ongoing challenge. So rather than continue on the path, we have investigated and discussed with members of the building community, as well as members of some of your tree committee volunteers on how to look at this practice in a different way. The only way that we could take more control of this and try to have an infrastructure development program that self-supports, that doesn't become a responsibility of the city, that has an additional revenue drag, is to charge for these trees and to take it upon ourselves to consult and be responsible for the installation of these assets and the ongoing maintenance. And the opportunity really came up when the city started using Crystal Greens and its own landscaping to help support some of the maintenance and operations of the park system. And when I saw that, it kind of triggered, this could be an opportunity to not only look at parks, but some of this infrastructure that is really cumbersome in the development process, and maybe look at a pilot or a different opportunity or a different way of administering this, hopefully with the intent of actually having some of these features be installed under stronger city oversight and improve the maintenance and longevity. So to do that, we have to establish a fee, and only you can do that. So included in your packet is a resolution establishing a fee that would cover not only the installation of the trees, but also what we think is a 2-year maintenance time and by way of watering, which is the key, really that key and critical area that comes to establishment of these assets. So you have a resolution. We use Crystal Greens to help base some estimate of what these trees would cost. The installation, I ran the numbers past a couple developers who agreed with the number of install was correct for a 2-inch tree, purchased, transported, planted, and they were on par with the number. Most of them didn't like how much it cost to water, but also told me that they didn't have the opportunity to do it themselves. So I didn't love the cost for watering, but certainly it's an estimate that we've ran past people, and I haven't had anyone told me that they would do it for cheaper. So it's like anything, it's a challenge. It's 2 persons in a truck traveling from out of town, gas and water included, is rolled into this. So we've had to use the estimate based on what we thought a hand watering schedule would be. Clearly, that is just an estimate and a forecast. It rained today. It wouldn't be a hand watering, but last year at this time it was 115 degrees. So clearly, this is just an estimate and forecast that we think would take care of the establishment of these trees. It may run different, but we have to base it in some way, shape, or form. This would only apply to public trees. This is not a private landscaping. This would not apply to PUDs where private streets and private infrastructure are installed. This is only for the city's street trees. So we would collect this money at the time of building permit, be responsible for contracting with our landscape professionals, purchasing the trees, providing oversight, and really seeing them installed when we want them installed with our approval of the species, of the condition, of the timing. And I think that, again, with the intent to ensure a better product that goes in the ground with less maintenance issues, improving the longevity of these assets.
Great. And you had some conversations with developers that would be paying this fee.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, thank goodness you're taking care of it and I don't have to do it, or what the heck? Or what were they saying?
I think there was it was mixed emotions. They understood it's moving in the right direction. They don't want to pay it, but they understand. They also understand it's to everyone's benefit. So one of them represented, and this is actually a developer and tree planting professional. They felt the resolution was the only direction to go as a way to try it. It's a move in the right direction. I think they represented a greater question. It wasn't just about establishing them, but the long-term maintenance and the program. That's what they were. That was the questions and concerns that were raised. It wasn't just the install. It was okay, what are we going to do in the next 5 to 10 years when these things are on the ground? The other developer said that's how much they would have to pay to install them. And they just were worried about the watering price. So I'm worried about the watering price too. So I think we're both on board with that. But yeah, that was the largest residential developer who's going to end up planting the most trees next year in the right of way. So we made sure that they were on board with that.
And once they sell that home, then the new person that buys it, if they don't realize you need to water these for the first 2 years, a whole bunch, then they just die anyway.
Right. And that's one of the fatal flaws, I think, of the program is the developer is willing to install them to meet it. We just can't really regulate the homeowner who then becomes the successor and responsible party to keep the thing alive. And I think we're trying to stop that. They're moving into a house. There's a lot going on. Their knowledge and expectation about maintaining public landscaping is really limited. So we're hoping that this puts us in a better position to be accountable for that landscaping and just really to establish them at those key times.
Questions for Dustin? Megan?
Kind of following on what Kate was asking, I guess. And it sounds like you talked to 2 folks, but we're not adding another burden that's going to limit housing development with this proposal.
We're hoping this is a less of a burden. Okay. This is an improvement that is already installed. It's an improvement that already has to be funded by the developer. We are just hoping that by doing it this way, we coordinate it. They hate doing it. It's always the last obstacle. It's always the last thing to be installed. It's always the last thing that happens. It's happening in July. They need to plant a tree in July, and they do it under duress, and they do it by driving to the Home Depot or Portland and buying that one tree and driving it 60 miles that day to make sure it gets installed. It really sets them up for failure. So I think to their benefit, they're not going to be in a position to have to rush to do that and have us stand out there saying, we're not going to give you a certificate of occupancy for your people to move into this house because you haven't fulfilled the infrastructure requirements. I think that is going to help them and reduce that obstacle.
Okay. And just from my own scale, like a standard, 50-foot frontage lot, how much would that cost?
That'd be $3,000, 2 trees.
Oh, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tim?
So who gets to decide what trees, what kind of trees?
Oh, the city will decide.
And how will you decide what trees?
We will we'll work with landscaper. We'll look and see what's available. We'll of course look at what species is available, not only available, but what works with us. And what do we want to spec for our assets? We'll be able to work with Public Works, who gets to maintain these. Also be able to discuss with them, what's out there, what's doing well. What does the professional landscape installer see continuing to thrive in our area? What is not thriving? We would be looking at things like pear trees, which were an amazing asset a long time ago that we probably lost. I don't know how many during a late season snowstorm. Their longevity of the calorie pear, and just really kind of look at trends of what is our urban forest, what do we have, what's successful. And really just make a judgment based on that.
Yeah, well, maybe some diversity.
Yeah, we don't want to have monoculture either. We don't have an ash tree that all of a sudden we have an emerald ash borer that wipes out our entire stock. We also want to make good design choices. What trees are supported by the street, residentially paired, what trees don't get taken out by trash trucks, snow plows, and what works for the area.
Yeah. Well, also given that, trees have the potential to mitigate some climate effects with respect to the watering thing. Do we really want to have somebody drive from Portland out here to water some trees?
No, I would love to have a landscape contractor contract that was local.
Yeah.
That's and we will continue to look for that. I don't have that.
Well, just speak the watering part of it could be local. I could cut down on the $238 for
we would love that.
Yeah. When we can hire another parks person at Public Works.
I was sitting here going, maybe I'll do it.
Oh,
I think we have open positions.
More, yeah. we do. More questions for Dustin? Eric?
I'm supportive of this. I have just a general different topic tree, can I ask you just a tree question generally? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I am thinking of this beetle that kills our beautiful fir trees, and I had a heartbreaking experience of going to Cirrhosis Park recently. I haven't been there in a while, and I was just like, it just made me cry. And that's probably old news to a lot of people, but go there and haven't been there, just have this, oh my gosh, what happens in this place? So, and I know we did lose a couple trees in Jackson Park. I'm not saying I was talking to beetle, but I guess my question is, just wanting to hope that never happens for like a Jackson Park or a Wilson Park or some of the parks. Because I'm just not in the know here. Does the city, are we doing anything, or can we be proactive to kind of prevent the tragedy in Cirrhosis Park and some of our parks?
I think that kind of goes back with the monoculture, the idea of planting different species. Our ability to protect a pine or predict a pine beetle is not there, but if we plant all ponderosa pines, white pines exclusively, that's when those devastating impacts can occur, is that when you do end up with a species that attacks that one species that you have, the way to really buffer it against it is to have a diversity. You know, your urban tree, urban forest becomes resilient when you have when you don't have the one species, a single species that can be vulnerable to that. So we can't predict it. The way to design around it is through diversity, so that you end up with not just a ponderosa species, you have a Doug fir species, or you have a spruce species, which is a little tough for us because it's water hungry, but trying to really match and build some, I call it asset resiliency, is how we try to deal with that. So,
Is there even a shorter term program to prevent the beetle?
you can treat for the beetle, but once it's in, it's a difficult thing. And
So we took some down, the land trust we had some that were infested on the land trust property, and we actually took them down so it wouldn't infest the other ones.
yeah, that's once they're in, you have to remove it. Otherwise it becomes opportunity to spread to healthier trees. Having watering and maintenance is helpful. They get stressed and they become vulnerable. That's an opportunity to deal with that.
I think this is going to come back to, we're going to work more with an arborist. And so basically pruning trees, removing the dead wood, taking care of disease, catching it early, like keeping our trees healthy so they're more resilient and can fight off pests and disease is where we're going to get the best opportunity. You cannot prevent all beetles, especially given climate change, but I think we're moving in the direction where we're going to have the healthiest trees we could if we just keep working on it.
Mayor, if I could add to those comments. I
Oh,
was
yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Counselor. I was about to say same thing, an excellent question, Counselor. You might remember that our contract with Crystal Greens, who's doing a lot of the irrigation and landscaping for the park, includes a checkup. They recently evaluated all of the trees in our parks. And that's where some of them were identified, very few number identified for removal or for some other kind of mitigation, but that I'm really pleased that that's in there. I think this is the first year we've ever done a comprehensive review of all of the trees in our parks. And I believe we do a quarter of all of our street trees every year. So within every 4 years, they've all been trimmed and evaluated by a certified arborist. So value our trees very carefully and take good care of them. But we definitely have to stay vigilant.
I had a couple questions. One, or just a comment. You talked about assessing the program after 2 years to evaluate results and effectiveness. And I just want to say, I think that's a great idea. I like the idea of this program, but it is new and want to make sure that it's working for the city and the developers. So that's great. And then one of my questions was, could city staff do this when we're more fully staffed? So it's kind of like what we had talked about, like, maybe at some point this would be public works staff helping take care of the trees.
Excuse me. I think we just acknowledged that as a resource limitation today, and this is the opportunity to take some alternative action.
So you'd like to go ahead and pass the resolution this evening?
Yes, Mayor, if you are all comfortable establishing the resolution would be effectively set a fee, which only council can do. That would basically go to fund this program and allow us to collect the fee to see the installs done on a permit by permit basis. Then there's opportunity, if you wanted to amend the Crystal contract at a later date, to approve that for to see them actually perform this install.
Okay. All right. So the resolution's on page 111. And there's kind of a semi-motion on page 109.
I will move, we approve resolution 2022-11, amending resolution 2022-02 and establishing the street tree fee, funding the installation and establishment of public street trees.
All right, I've got a motion by Megan.
I'll second, go ahead.
All right, and Tim has seconded that. It is resolution 2022-11, which amends resolution 2022-02 and establishes the street tree fee for the funding and installation and establishment of public street trees. Additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes aye. Thanks, Justin. That was a lot of work, but that was great. That was great. All right. Mayor call. All right, I've got several things this evening. So we'll start with city manager performance review process. So I'm going to pass out some things here for everyone. So I'll just talk about these pages I'm giving everyone. So Jessica and I met and we went through the recommendations. And I think Jennifer emailed all of those to you guys, and we went through that packet of information of recommendations on how to do city manager review. And out of that, Jessica and I came up with what you see. And so basically, the process would be that if you guys are good with the way I'm going to go through this evening, what would happen is you would fill out your portion of this. So there's a thing that says counselor evaluation of city manager. And it's just 3 questions. And then each of you would fill that out and get it back to me, hopefully before our next meeting, if we possibly can. And then Abigail would fill out her own self-evaluation, which is different questions, and those are included in here. And I've already run this by Abigail too, so she is familiar with what this says. No big surprises. And I think there was one thing that she actually added, and I can't remember which one it is now, but just something very small. But she thought the process was good too. So then you would get me that information back and I would kind of look at all the information. And then at our next meeting, we would go into an executive session without Abigail, and we would come to consensus on our evaluation. And then the meeting after that, we would go into executive session again, and we would present our information to Abigail. So there's also a couple of other things in here. One of the things that it talked about that we should be doing is that we should be looking at, I think it's called International City Manager Association. Is that what it's called? Jessica, I keep calling it. Jessica, I was talking to Jessica about this so much. And it's on the second page and it says, these are kind of things that are just high level general things. They are not our strategic plan. They are not our work plan. They are not our values, but they are high top values that we as counselors may think are important for a city manager to have. And there's 14 of these. But what I'd like you guys to do is to pick a few of these. I've written on here, I think I said 3 to 5, just circle them. And let's just see if we as a council can come up with consensus on the ones that we think are important. And then that would be something in 6 months from now, when Abigail's been here a year, that we would let her know that we think that these are kind of important things for our city manager to have. And then we can discuss those again in 6 months, but not now. She doesn't have this list. She doesn't have any idea what we think is important. And so we need to kind of come to consensus on that. So that is not something we're evaluating Abigail on at this point at all, but it's just to look at what we think as a council is important. So that's what that list is about. Other than that, let's see if I've forgotten anything. No, I don't think that's, oh, and then this list, what we are really supposed to be, and this is on the first page, the process is to evaluate what's getting done. So what are our goals? And so these are our city goals on this spreadsheet. And so if you feel that there's minimal progress, satisfactory progress, or exceeds expectations, just put a mark by, put an X. Not 1 to 5, just an X, a check mark. If you're putting minimal, or if you're going to put exceeds, please put something after that, why you think that. Just very short. It doesn't have to be a long explanation. But these are the things we're evaluating. We're not evaluating personalities. We are evaluating progress on our projects. So that's what this sheet is about. And this sheet is really kind of what we're going to be talking about when we do our executive session. Let's see if I've got anything else. And really the executive session that we have with Abigail is all about communication. That is what it's for. That is to be able to communicate to her and she to communicate to us. Are things working for you as you feel? Are you able to communicate with us? Are we able to communicate back to her as a council wholly or in individual meetings? So that's really what the whole process is for. So if you guys are good with this process, if you feel like this is what the International City Managers Association, they've gone through this whole process, and this is the process they say that works the best. Other than going to, getting a facilitator, which would do this basically same thing, but I think we can do it. So thoughts?
Thank you for saving us money because a facilitator will charge a lot of it. But I appreciate that this is all very outcomes based and they are SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, and whatnot. Yeah, I appreciate this new infrastructure. Thank you too.
Okay. It's a little, there's a little more to it than what we had done before, but it's, there's more to it, but it's more specific, I think. It's not just generalized as much as what we did before. So, anyone else? Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the general process sounds good and a big improvement over our old one. I guess I'm just wondering, maybe so we're all on the same page of like some of these operational ones on the second page of like, I don't know where we're at in like migrating to Office. How do you want us? Do we just leave that blank and say we don't know, or?
Yeah, I would just
Okay.
say, I don't know. And that would be something that when we talk about it, we'd say, well, do we need to know? Or
Yeah.
should we get updates? Should we see about getting an update once every 6 months or,
Okay.
so I think because we have it on our list, if you don't know, just put don't know and we'll go through it.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
On that one, by the way, Megan, the outlook is that she's really excelling. And that's the word.
Word on the street is.
Anything, Tim? Or you good? We can, no. Yeah, I think we should do it that way. And then, because we're going to do it in an executive session. And I think that, the public would like to know what the questions are that we're asking. And they would, like to know in general. But one of the processes I think that we can do is we can have, just a summary, a high level summary of our, outcome. We don't need to do anything more than that, but we could just do a very short, high level summary. If I can read Megan's, I can read yours too. She's got the smallest writing in the world. Make your writing as large as you can, Megan. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's on that. So I've got a couple more, a few other things this evening. Oh, I know what the other thing was I wanted to do. I don't know if anyone has, I know you sometimes don't have your calendar with you, Tim, but we're going to do these in executive session, and I'm trying to figure out when people should get these back to me. And if we're going to have quorums, because I know a few people are going to be gone for a few meetings in July and potentially into August. So could you guys let me know if there's any meetings you're going to miss between now and the end of August? Just the date of any meeting that you won't be here. Because I think we need the full council for these meetings. I don't want to, we should have the full council.
I'm going to be gone next meeting, so the end of June, it's the 27th. But with that, I do think that it's important to be timely in this, and so I'm okay with you having an executive session without me there.
Okay.
Like I would give you my feedback, my written feedback.
Your written feedback. Okay.
Ahead of that meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, you're going to be here? Okay. All right.
I will be remote July 11th, but I will, be able to come still.
Okay. But you'll be here, but just.
I'll be in a parking lot, but yes.
You're here for all. And Tim, you don't know. Okay. You can be here then. Okay. And do we know about Mark? Did he?
I'm
he
pretty
said
sure
anything?
he's here next meeting, but I don't know what the rest of the summer looks like.
He hasn't said anything to you, has he, Jen? About being gone any meetings? He's at the next meeting though. Okay. All right.
With that being said, is our pattern off for meetings?
Is what?
Is our pattern off for meetings? No?
No, it's just because we had
There's a fifth
a
Monday.
fifth
Yeah,
Monday. That's
okay.
why.
Okay, because this one really threw me off. I'm like, wait, what?
We had a fifth, yeah, we had a fifth Monday. That's what it was. And the other thing is that normally, I believe the second meeting in August, we have not held. There's been numerous years that we don't have that meeting because people are on vacations or I don't know. Somebody's gone, two people are gone. So we historically have not had that second meeting in August. And I think we'll be done with this prior to that, for sure. So if we don't need the meeting for some reason, if it's not really, really necessary, are you guys, you want to not have it? I mean, that's what we've historically done. That meeting and the second meeting in December, those two.
I mean, I'd say if staff has something that we need to move forward, then fine
we should meet.
meeting, but I
But-
think that that's usually part of it too. is there's-
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll say no meeting unless we absolutely need it. And, you know, we can't move things forward unless we have it. Okay, all right. I just wanted to kind of get a feel for what people were thinking about that because we talked about it and, okay, so we've got that. All right, so if everyone could get these back to me in a week, you can just put it in an envelope and put it in my slot down here.
Mayor, may I ask for clarification? I think in this process, do you need a self-evaluation from me first to distribute to council members before they do their evaluation? That's how I read this, although I have no preference, whatever you'd like to
Yeah,
do.
I mean, I think I know that's what we've done in the past too, is like it helps us. And it helps inform our responses.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we can do that then. I mean, I think it's not as much a surprise, passing them back and forth. We know what you've already said. So, you know what? Because I need to give Abigail some time to do her part. You get that back to me in a week. I will get that to everyone else. We will not do the executive session next meeting. We will do it at the first meeting. Yeah, the week before that. All right, thanks, guys. We did it. So, oh, yeah. Yeah, Jessica volunteered to help me with it and appreciate it. Yeah. We tried to take the nuts and bolts and the best parts out of that form that we had and make it work. Couple of things. First of all, Jennifer Caden isn't here, but she is leaving. And I just wanted to publicly thank her for all her work. She's had a lot of heavy lifts that she's done in the last couple years with all of our big projects, with housing projects. And so I just wanted to thank her for that. Secondly, we have another person leaving. Unfortunately. And you'll be very missed, Will. So, yeah, I'm sure everyone will have something to say here. But I just want to say, it's just been a pleasure. Yeah, it has. And then the other thing is that as of, I think last week, maybe it was the first date that you could get your petition if you want to run for city council or mayor. And I believe you have to turn those in by late August. Is that correct, Jennifer? All right. So if anyone has any interest in doing that, that is listening to this or maybe listening to this later, you can come in or you can email and get the information from Jennifer Gray. And it's j.gray@cityofhoodriver.gov. And she will get you all the information you need to get your signatures, pay your fees, get it turned, no fees. Okay, no fees. Woohoo. And to get it turned in time to get on the November ballot. And that being said, I am not going to run for mayor this time around. So who knows who might like to do that, but I just am publicly telling people now, you can sign up, and I am not going to run again. I've loved doing this, you know, being on planning commission, city council, you know, being mayor during COVID was a bit of a challenge. But I've enjoyed all the challengers, but I have other things I want to do with my family, and need to let some other people make some decisions. So just publicly wanted to say I am not going to run for mayor. So, all right, there you go. Council call, Megan.
Well, one, thank you for your many years on council. We're gonna miss you in 6 months. But I'm gonna take the lead. As Kate said, sadly, we're losing Will, and it's his last meeting with us. But council really wanted to recognize and thank him for all of his work over the years. Obviously, we're in a very good financial position, but also just the financial systems, you know, they're so clear and easy to understand. And we love that because we're kind of dumb. But also beyond that, you've been so willing and eager and curious to take on all of these other projects, you know, from urban renewal to renewable energy to wastewater treatment plant to housing. And it's been incredible to watch, and we just so appreciate it. And so we really wanted to thank you and recognize you. And because we're not quite ready to let you go completely, we gave you an excuse to come back to town and have a nice dinner. So thank you. You will be missed. And I can't get out, so.
Thank you, Will.
So someone who's closer can please pass that over to him, because I'm stuck.
All right, Tim.
Yeah, well, I could go on, and I'm sure a lot of people will go on and on, but, you know, I really do want to say that, you know, we're in such a good spot, having weathered the pandemic, and, you know, as I watched you go through that whole process and help us through that, it was just, I just really, really appreciate it. And I think the city appreciates it. I think that the people in this town, even if they don't know they should appreciate it, they should appreciate it. So thank you very much, and job well done.
Yeah, Will, thank you so much and when I look at all of these projects, you've helped with every single one of them. We as a city never stopped services in the last 2 years, even though we were dealing with a pandemic, and that has a lot to do with you. I mean, you set everything up, you give us hope, and you let us create so much with a good amount of money, right? We can't do anything without money. So I appreciate all your time. I appreciate all your attention to detail, because look at what we've been able to do because of you. So I appreciate everything that you've done for us all, and you will be missed. And today as we're going through it, I was like, oh, this is the last time. Like, oh, I'm really sad, just because I feel for me, you've helped me so much. I've learned so much in the last 2 years that I didn't know. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to explain it to me. So thank you for empowering me and for supporting us all in the last 2 years. I appreciate everything you do. Jennifer Caden is a Shiro, same as Kate.
I am also beyond words for everything that Will's done for the city. So, and thank you, Will. And also for Jennifer Caden as well, who's been wonderful in everything that she's accomplished for the city. A couple other things I did. I got to see the mayor do an awesome job at the Urban League of Portland meeting at the Hood River Rotary. So congrats to the mayor. And I also, just before this, did go and said hello to our USDA staff, which I get to do a lot of work with them through my work. And they had the event right before this. So, and the new state director, Margie Hoffman, had her prior position was with Farmers Conservation Alliance. So she has some really good ties to this area. And she's really impressive. I also mentioned to them the Rand Road housing development, and because I was talking with one of the people that does single family housing loan guarantees, and anyway, they were interested in seeing. I talked to them about how we weren't able to make the housing purchase component of that project work, and they were interested in at least seeing the details. So I was gonna share that with them. I will be presenting the regional updated economic development strategy at the next county meeting. So if folks are interested, it should be on the 21st. I don't know what time yet, but I could share that with you through Abigail. And then I wasn't planning on saying this today, but I'll jump on the mayor's band. It's been a very hard decision, and I am also not going to be running for reelection. I didn't think I was going to cry. I've really enjoyed the policy side of this work. It's very exciting. But my position at work has gotten much more demanding since I ran for office. So it has been challenging. And I do hope to end strong with hopes for running for office again in the future. So I didn't know I was going to cry.
Thank you, Jessica.
I do really enjoy this work and all of you and working with the city as well. So, but I'm here through December, so we're going to get some good stuff done.
That's why I took this mayor's task force for affordable housing, because I thought I'm just going to try and get that. It's been a passion of mine for a long time. Eric.
Yes, I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon. You know, Will, you've just been the consummate professional. And I'll go on record. There was, I think, in the 4 years I've been on council, there was one issue that I disagree with you on. It had to do with that car share thing. And I'm gonna go on the record and say you were right and I was. But you can just rely on your numbers. You made our job easier. I heard it was like Metro, so you'll have some great, exciting challenges ahead of you. So, but there was just this long pause when I heard in my end, when I heard that you were leaving. Just been able to rely on everything you've ever done.
Mary, do you mind if I say a couple words?
Oh, go ahead, Will. We
Okay.
definitely would love you to say a couple words.
Well, it's been my honor and my privilege to serve Hood River. I fell in love with Hood River when I first came here to build Wilderness Trail with AmeriCorps, and boomeranged out and came back and was lucky to find a job here with the city. And just one thing that I take away is I think the city doesn't know how lucky they are to have a city council that works so well together. Even when you disagree, even when you're having personal attacks thrown at you on social media, you all just stay strong and you stay focused, and you keep things not personal, you keep things professional. And you might not know how unique and special that is, because it's kind of the culture here in Hood River, and it has been ever. And that's why I love serving all of you, but also your predecessors. Is there's a level of civility here that I think is rarer and rarer in our discourse. And so thank you for keeping that. Thank you for maintaining that here. There's really a special place to serve.
Thanks, Will. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Oh, I will adjourn the meeting at 5 minutes till 8. Thanks, everyone.